Today's true tale of the paranormal takes place in a hotel in Llandudno, Wales, United Kingdom. The backstory as to why I was at this hotel: I took a trip in 1989. My parents gave me a choice when I graduated with my master's degree. I could either get behind curtain number 1, a used car, or behind curtain number 2, an all expenses paid trip to England. And it was a tour organized by the History Book Club, which I think is defunct now, I'm not sure. But back then they would do historical tours once in a while. And the theme of the tour was the real and the legendary King Arthur. Being the Anglophile that I am, and a huge King Arthur buff, which choice do you think I made? So here I am. I'm in the middle of a 2-week-long, all expenses paid trip to England. I've always wanted to go. I was in heaven the entire time, except for a few minutes that occurred at the George Hotel in Llandudno, Wales. The George Hotel is a Victorian hotel, and it consists of 5 floors. Now, as far as I know, there are only hotel rooms on the first 4 floors, or actually second, third, and 4th floor, I think. I'm not sure they have hotel rooms up on the 5th floor. They might, but I think that's like roof rooms or something. But anyway, our tour group consisted of 12 Americans, our driver and our guide. And among the 12 Americans, everyone was traveling as a pair except for myself and one other lady. And since we had both paid a little extra to go as a single person, we each time we went to a different hotel during the trip, we'd have a room to ourselves. So we stayed at this hotel for 2 nights or 3, I don't really remember. It was at least 2. And we usually stayed at each hotel for 2 to 3 nights before moving on. So here we were at the George Hotel, and it was about halfway through our trip. And my room happened to be up on the 4th floor of the hotel. I was the only member of the tour group housed up on the 4th floor. Everyone else was on the 3rd floor. And it was explained, well, they didn't have another single room available on the 3rd floor, so they put me up on the 4th. So I'm the only one in the tour group up on the 4th floor. And my room happened to be at the end of the hallway and off to the left, off along this really short, tiny side corridor. And then my room was at the end of that corridor. And this corridor was only maybe 20 feet long. It led directly to my room. And and this occurred in 1989. And to the best of my memory, the room number was 428, but don't quote me on that. But that is to the best of my memory. My room overlooked the harbor. I had a great view. People were coming to my room to take pictures because their rooms all faced the street that the George sits on. So everyone was coming into my room to take their pictures and oohing and eyeing and, oh, you're so lucky to have this room. And I'm like, yeah, I did great, and all this stuff, And we go off, we go downstairs for our dinner. And then that evening we all retire to our rooms, and it's like about 9 o'clock. And I'm in my room, I'm watching some movie on, the BBC. And again, I'm in heaven because I can watch the BBC in the evenings there. And back then, this was before we had the BBC here in America on cable. So I was just like thrilled out of my Anglophile mind. And so I'm enjoying some movie. And then I decide I'm going to take a bath now as opposed to in the morning, because the next morning we were going off to another some location that was further away from the hotel, and our guide had told us you're going to have to get up like an hour early. So I decided to bathe the night before, right? And it was our first night there at the George. So the way my hotel room was set up, okay, first of all, as you walked in, now this is an important feature of the room. Well, it's important later on in my experience, but as I shut the door, I noticed it had all these locks on it, and I was like, that's kind of weird. It's just like, why does this door have like 4 locks? It had the deadbolt, and it had a couple of chain locks and another lock, and I was like, that, it creeped me out just a teeny bit. Like, what are they trying to keep out, But I didn't think much of it beyond that. And as you walk into the room, it opens up, and there was a queen size bed there. And the TV was up along the opposite wall. Just past the bed, there was a little elevated dais or landing, and on top of that little landing, they had a round table in front of the window with 2 armchairs that were facing both sides of the table at an angle. So it came in the room, the chairs faced the room at kind of like about a 45-degree angle, both of them. That's important later on too. And it was really nice. Like I said, it was a great view, and the room was big, and I was the only one staying in there, and the bathroom was nice, and the bathroom was right next to the the queen size bed. And so from the bathroom, you would see the side of the bed directly in front of the door, about 3 feet or so in front of the bathroom door. So as I was taking my bath, I left the door to the bathroom open, because of course I'm the only one in the room, and why would I close the bathroom door, right? Unless I'm like super paranoid, which I'm not. So I left the door open, and I'm there, I'm bathing, and enjoying my bath. And my upper body is directly parallel to the door of the bathroom. So as I look out, I can see the majority of my hotel room in front of the bathroom door. And I can see that little landing with the table. I can see the table. I can see both of the chairs. I can see the window. So I'm bathing, and all of a sudden, as I look out the room, it's like something's different. You know how when you look at something and you're not very familiar with it, but when you look at it again, you can tell something's changed, and it takes your brain a few seconds to figure out what's changed? That was the situation. I looked out at the room, and I thought, something's changed in my view from the bathroom. Something's different. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to think what it is. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh, the chair that was on my left-hand side of the table as I was looking at the table, so it would have been this chair, seems to be a little bit straighter than the other chair. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, did I do that? And I thought, well, I had all my friends from the tour group came up there, and, 11 other people were like taking pictures in my room. And I figured somebody moved a chair, big deal. So I'm there bathing. I'm minding my own business, right? Which you'll notice on this channel, that's going to be a very common theme. Never minding her own business usually leads to weird shit. Okay. I'm just saying that's how it is in my life. And so, I'm there bathing. All of a sudden, I look out of the room again. And this was before I had my online spiritual business. I was very much I was a practicing witch at the time. I was very much into the paranormal, but I had not had a ton of experience with the paranormal up to this point in 1989. And I look out, and in that chair, I see something that my brain could not even compute at the time. I totally flipped out in the span of maybe about 5 seconds. I don't know how long it took me to fly out of the bathtub butt naked. But what I saw in the chair had 2 arms. Both of the chairs had arms. And I saw this amorphous, gray, misty, shadowy shape in the chair. And as I looked at it, it began to take more concrete form to where I could see the swirling where a face would be. I could see its arms were resting on the arms of the chair. I could see swirling mist where the hands would be. And I could see the upper torso, and it looked like it had something on its shoulders, looked like a cape that would have come down behind the figure. And then it was wearing kind of like a big wide-brimmed hat with some feathers or something off to the side. And I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, what in the hell am I seeing right now? And then part of me goes, that's a ghost. That's an almost full body apparition. I could see it from the waist up. Did not have any legs that I could see. And I don't know exactly what happened next. All I know, the next thing I can remember is I'm at the door of my room. Now, I had done up all those locks when I went to take my bath because I figured those locks are on the door for a reason. I'm traveling alone. I'm 22 years old. I'm going to throw all the locks, right? And I'm there at the door, and I'm like, you're trying to do all the locks. And I can remember in my mind's eye, I can see my hands doing this in front of me as I have the memory. Somehow I get them all undone. And I go running. There's like a side stairway next to my room off the main corridor. I go running down that. I don't bother to go take the elevator because the elevator's at the midpoint of the main hallway. I would have had to pass about maybe 5 or 6 rooms to get to the elevator. I go flying down the stairs as quick as I can. And I go running. This couple who were traveling with me, Wally and Judy, had the room almost directly below mine. It was below mine and like 1 or 2 doors down. And I knew this prior. So I go running down to their room and I'm banging on the door. And I'm yelling, it's going to get me. It's going to get me. And Wally throws open the door. He's like, what? And he grabs me and he pulls me into the room because I just had a towel wrapped around me. That was it. And he's like, what's wrong? What happened? What happened? Are you okay? Are you okay? And his wife's like, what happened? Did someone get into your room? And she's starting to freak out. And I'm like, I'm trying to calm down so I can tell them. I'm like, it wasn't a physical person. They're like, what do you mean? And then I started telling him what I saw. And his wife's like, no way, really? And she was all into it, man. And she wanted to go to my room and check it out as quick as they could. So we all go running back up there. And I had left the door to my room wide open. So it's sitting there wide open. And we go in and, shut the door, of course. And Wally's like, go in the bathroom and finish drying up and get dressed. We'll check everything out here, So I go in there and I have my pajamas there. So I'm putting on my pajamas. And when I come back out, like a couple minutes later, Judy's walking around the room like this. And Wally says, shh, she's feeling for cold spots. I'm like, oh, okay. And she's going around, and she goes to the chair and she's feeling around there. And she goes, come here, Wally, come here. And he goes to the chair. He goes, what is it? He goes, feel the temperature here. It's different. It's different in the chair. And Wally sticks his hands there and he drew them back real quick. And he says, it's freezing over here. And I'm like, really, it is? And by this time, I'm not seeing anything. None of us are seeing anything. None of us are hearing anything. So I go up to the chair and I put my hands where the figure was, and they were right. It was really cold. It's like when you would open the door to a refrigerator. It was that kind of cold, not ice cold, but definitely quite colder than the remainder of the room. And it was mid-July also. And England at the time was in the middle of a heat wave. They were in the middle of a drought. And so we hadn't had any rain during our trip at all, which was really awesome for us. We had bright sunny skies every day, and our guide and our driver complained about the heat every single day while we were all like, it's so nice here. It was in the 80s. I mean, it was awesome. And so we all felt the cold spot. And then we went downstairs and got the other woman from the tour group who was traveling alone. We got her to come up. And by this time, the cold spot had greatly dissipated, so she could barely feel anything, but she believed me. And she's like, you're sleeping with me in my room. I've got 2 beds in my room. And so that's what I did. Each night for the remainder of my stay at the George, I slept with Deanna in her room, in one of the twin beds that were in her room. Now, the next morning, I went downstairs to speak with the front desk because I was like, what in the heck? And I explained the situation. I said, look, I'm with this tour group and I'm the only one with a room on the 4th floor. And they're like, is there a problem with your room? And I'm like, yes and no. I said, the room's fine. I said, but something really strange happened. And they go, really, what? And I said, has anyone ever told you anything, experienced anything weird in room 428 or up on the 4th floor in particular? The concierge told me, He says, yes, you're on the 4th floor. Our maids will only work the 4th floor in pairs. Anywhere in the hotel, they're fine. Anywhere else, they'll go and work alone. But when they go up to the 4th floor, they always do the rooms in pairs. I said, why is that? And he said, well, they say there's something weird about the 4th floor and no one feels comfortable. He says, I haven't been here very long myself. I don't know if anyone has ever seen anything up there. I haven't personally, but if you were to talk to, you know, the maids, they may have stories. I don't know. He says, why? What happened? And I told him, and he was like, really? Oh my goodness. He said to me, that's marvelous. And I'm like, yeah, it's marvelous. I got the crap scared out of me, you know? And he says, I wonder if you saw like a pirate. He says, it sounds like you're describing a pirate. And I said, maybe, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I saw. And so we went about our day. We went on our tour of us King Arthur related sites in the area. We come back to the hotel and we're going to have dinner. I go up to my room to freshen up. Now, this is now night 2. And this hotel, it's hallways. On either end of the hallways, they have a glass door and the hinge is along the top. And I'll have a picture that I got from someone's video off of YouTube of the pressurized hinge that is located along the top of these doors. And that is so the door does not slam, because you've got a big glass panel in the upper half of the door. Then you've got like, I don't know, wooden support beam, or maybe it was a metal, I don't remember. And then you've got a big glass panel in the lower half of the door. So the majority of the door is glass. You don't want those doors slamming, you know? So the pressurized hinge prevents the door from slamming. And so I go up, I'm in my room, I come out of my room, and I have to go through that door with a pressurized hinge at the end of the hallway to get to the elevator in the middle of the hallway. Because I didn't want to go down 4 flights of stairs. And, you know, it was July and the hallways were really hot. So going down 4 flights of stairs with no AC running in that area of the hotel, not good. So I go and I walk through that pressurized hinged door. And and I've been through it a few times before, and I know what it sounds like when it's going to close. And so it starts to make this kind of like a real soft whoosh sound. All of a sudden, bam! The whole door just slams. And I mean, it slammed the hell out of itself. I jump probably 2 feet straight up in the air. I don't know. And I just throw my arms up, and I'm like going, shit, it's that ghost. And I run past the elevators to the opposite side of the hallway and go down the stairs over there. I don't even wait on the elevator. I'm flying down 4 flights of stairs in the summer heat. I'm dying. I get to the bottom. And one of my friends is there, and I'm grabbing her, and I'm like, can it happen again? Because by this time, the whole tour group knows, our guide knows, our driver knows, our guide and our driver think it's just the coolest thing. It was neat being in England, because everyone there, at least at the time in 1989, I'm originally from Illinois. I grew up in northern Illinois, and people don't talk about the paranormal back home. In England, you mention the paranormal, and it's like so normal to them. They're like, oh yeah, my auntie's house had a ghost, and then they come out with all their stories, UFO stories, anything and everything, cryptids, fairies, all sorts of stuff. So, by the time I saw the ghost, I'd had a previous experience during the same trip that I'll share in a different video. And so they all kind of knew I was, the weird American, but that I fit right in because, they all had their own little paranormal experiences in their lifetimes too. So they're like, what happened? What happened? I said, the hallway door. They're like, what about him? Like, it slammed shut behind me. And our guide was right there, and he turns to me, he says, these are all pressurized hinges. They don't slam because the doors are glass. And I'm like, I know. This one slammed. So he goes up there. My friend I told goes up there. A couple of other people overheard from our group. We all go up there. So there's like 5 people now marching up to this door, right? the exact same door. And our guide says, all right, show me what you did. I'm like, okay, well, my room's right there. I come out, lock the door, come out, push open the door. I walk through it. I take about 3 steps and the thing just slams. And he says, okay, let's do this. And I go through and they watch the door. Just closes normal like it always does. And we all look at the door. They all look at me and they're like, are you sure? I'm like, I thought the glass was going to shatter. It slammed that hard. And so they open the door. And first it was just one person, our guide, pushing on it, trying to get that door to close quicker than what the pressurized hinge would allow. Nothing doing. He couldn't force it. So then him and another guy from our group do the same thing together. They couldn't force it. It took all 5 of us to get it to move even slightly faster than what it was meant to move. There's no way that door could physically slam, even with several people pushing on it. So they could not explain what happened to me. They couldn't debunk it. So those were my 2 paranormal experiences at the George Hotel in Llandudno. 2 paranormal experiences for the price of 1. Talk about a bargain, right? So I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little experience of mine. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And as I've said at the beginning of the video, if you like what you see, please give the video a like. And if you're new here, I ask that you please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll receive an email notification every time I post a new video to my channel. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time on True Tales of the Paranormal.